Gronk is still in limbo, potentially making things tough on the Bucs with the draft just a few short weeks away. The Saints made a big trade. How is that going to affect the Buccaneers this season and beyond? And is a potential Bucs target headed to the NFC South? All that and more on this episode of the Locked On Bucs podcast. Let's go.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bucs Nation, and welcome to the Locked On Bucs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. We thank you for making today's episode your first listen or view of the day. I am James Yarcho, flying solo on this episode. Evan Klosky is unavailable, but of course, you can check out everything that I'm doing over at BucsNation.com. Follow along on Twitter at @JYarcho_Bucs. You can check out my normal co-host, David Harrison, over at BucsGameDay.com and on Twitter at DHarrison82. Follow the show at Locked On Bucs. First and foremost, I do want to apologize. I know on Monday's episode, I said that I would have a solo episode up on Tuesday. That turned out not to be the case. Right after David and I got done recording, basically one of those moments where everything that can go wrong does go wrong for me. That ended up happening. So I spent all of my spare time on Monday trying to get things figured out, fixed up, ready to go, and I was not able to record. So I do apologize to all of you for missing Tuesday's episode, but I'm back today, and we have some things to talk about. First and foremost, Rob Gronkowski has still not committed to playing in 2022 or re-entering retirement. Now, Gronk spoke with TMZ Sports about his upcoming draft party in Vegas, which looks to be like a wild time. You can rent like center pool lily pads for like $8,000. They get all kinds of ranges of prices and amenities and all that. I think entry for women is $55, men is $85, expedited entries like $150, and it continues to go all the way up from there. But he promises a good time. I'm sure it will be. But Gronk, during this conversation with TMZ Sports, speaking about that draft party, was once again asked about his status for 2022. Now, remaining steadfast in his lack of commitment, Gronk said he has not made a decision either way as of yet.
Time out. That's why I wasn't catching. I was throwing the passes, Mojo, because if I knew I started, catching some passes that, my head would have started turning like, oh crap, man, I got to get back out in the field. And right now, I'm not ready to get back out in that field. I'm not ready to commit to the game of football right now. I'm just enjoying my time off. In order to play the game of football, you literally have to be 100% dedicated week in and week out, because it's a grind, man. You know how it is. You played ball, and even in your 30s, I mean, you just can't, slack it and just be 50% all in. Then you're going to get caught up with the game, and it's going to just spit you right out. You got to be fully dedicated. I'm not ready to do that yet. So I'm not going to, sign a contract if I'm not fully ready. And that's why I didn't catch a ball, because I didn't want my mind, twisting and turning, thinking I was ready to go yet.
Again, that was Rob Gronkowski talking about his pending decision, whether he's going to play or retire. He was talking about throwing passes at a charity event. He and Tom Brady were at a charity event over the weekend. I'm not sure exactly what the charity was for. I know they were out there throwing passes to kids and having a great time out there. And look, this decision by Rob Gronkowski is an important one on a multitude of levels. And David and I have talked repeatedly about this topic and about how we believe that Gronk is going to return and he's going to play for the Buccaneers. Friend of the show, JC Cornell, he was at the charity event and he said Gronk is still 50-50 on playing, but if he does play, it will be for the Buccaneers. There's not going to be any competition between any other teams. If Gronk is back, he's a Buck. Plain and simple. It's kind of how we felt things were going to go because of the return of Tom Brady, right? But look, this decision, or lack thereof as of right now, affects more than just Gronk, right? And I respect him taking his time. This is an important decision for him in his life. At the same time, there is a chain reaction going on here when it comes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The draft is coming up in just a couple of weeks. I believe it's 3 weeks from tomorrow as you're listening to this. So the first big wave of free agency is over, right? If Gronk decides he does not want to return to play football and he is not going to be a member of the Buccaneers and he doesn't make that decision within the next couple of weeks, the Bucs are in a bad spot. Right now, all they have is Cameron Brate. So if you want to take a look at the realm of free agents at the tight end position, there's some okay ones. There's no question about that. You have Blake Jarwin, Eric Ebron, Jimmy Graham, Kyle Rudolph, Jared Cook, Anthony Ferkshire. Not great. Not great options. There's some good options. I like Blake Jarwin a lot. I think he's been derailed by some unfortunate injuries, not like nagging injuries that he just can't get over. He's had some like pretty brutal, unfortunate injuries. Eric Ebron, meh. Jimmy Graham, I'm pretty sure this dude has been in the league since 1987. Kyle Rudolph, he was kind of showing his age. Jared Cook, hit or miss. Really, truly, he's hit or miss. He's either absolutely on fire or he's a liability to your football team. And again, Anthony Ferkshire, not great. But those are the top tight ends available on the market. Then there's some really solid tight ends out there in the draft, but the Bucs are going to have to use, a day 2 pick, and they might have to trade up in order to get a starting caliber tight end on day 2, which is going to cost them even more draft capital. They've already spent a 5th round pick, trading for Shaq Mason. So there's not a lot of draft capital for them to throw around in terms of moving up and down the draft board, unless they trade down from that 1st round pick and can acquire, 2 day 2 picks, one in the early part of the 2nd, maybe one in the 3rd, and then maybe one day 3 pick, in the 6th round or something. So you take a look at those scenarios. This Gronk decision is weighing extremely heavily. It's this like dark looming cloud over the heads of the Buccaneers, of Buccaneers fans, because it does have some very serious repercussions based on what the decision is. I was 100%. Gronk is coming back. He's going to play with Brady. They're going to run this thing back again. You're going to have Gronk and Cameron Brate probably draft someone on day 3 to kind of be a rotational guy, be a depth guy. You can develop a little bit. You can probably still go out and get one of those free agent tight ends that I listed off for a reasonable price. Then things kind of started to shift a little bit. It seemed like from that video that circulated from Gronk in the barbershop that he was pretty close to coming back. He was just going to kind of take his time a little bit. And, he seemed committed, but not in a hurry to race down to $1 and sign his contract. So I went from 100%, I was down to like 95%. Then we had some more reports coming out. I dropped down to 90%. At this point, I'm at like 75. I really think that there's now starting to be a decent and legitimate chance that Rob Gronkowski, he's out there partying in Vegas for the draft. Like I mentioned before, his girlfriend is a supermodel and she can travel all over the world to do her photo shoots and her modeling. And he would have the opportunity to accompany her to all these different places, and they can travel together and see all these beautiful locations and see the world. That's enticing for a 32-year-old guy who has plenty of money to be able to do that. His girlfriend is making plenty of money. These are serious life decisions that he has ahead of him, but the fallout could be pretty rough for the Buccaneers at the tight end position if he ends up deciding to retire. So it went from, Gronk's Gronk will be back. No worries, too. This might start to be something to legitimately monitor. Something else to monitor is what the New Orleans Saints are now doing within the NFC South. They have traded for an additional first-round pick, and that could have some fallout that is going to affect the Buccaneers and maybe a former Buccaneer. But first, Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that gives you the features of $200 sunglasses for a fraction of the price. That means polarized lenses, well-constructed durable frames, premium high-end finishes, and something that you won't find anywhere else. Shady Rays Insane Protection Program. Shady Rays includes lost and broken protection on every pair. They will send you a brand new pair if you lose them, no matter what happened. Give them a try, and if you don't love them, you will pay nothing. It's simple as that. 10 meals are donated to fight hunger in America when you shop with Shady Rays. So you're helping you, and then you're helping 10 other people all in one fell swoop. Exclusively for our listeners, head to shadyrays.com. Use code Locked On, and you are going to get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. That's code Locked On for their best deal of the season. 50% off 2 or more pairs of Shady Rays sunglasses, backed by over 150,000 verified 5-star reviews. Segment 2 here of the Locked On Bucs podcast, and thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listen every day. Make sure that you are following Locked On NFL, Locked On experts covering the biggest stories around the NFL every Monday through Friday in less than 30 minutes, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Big news came out on Tuesday that the New Orleans Saints made an interesting move, acquiring a second first-round pick from the Philadelphia Eagles. So how is that going to affect the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Well, first and foremost, let's go over what happened. The Philadelphia Eagles traded picks number 16, 19, and 194 to the Saints in exchange for pick number 18, pick number 101, 237, a 2023 first-round pick, and a 2024 second-round pick. So the Saints now have 2 first-round picks this year, but they don't have one next year. They lose a second-rounder 2 years from now, and then they gave up 101 and 237. They get back 194, so kind of met in the middle on that one. So why? Why would the New Orleans Saints make this move? There's a couple of possibilities. Number one, we assume, we don't know, but we assume that the New Orleans Saints are going to target a wide receiver in this draft. Acquiring picks 16 and 19 give them the flexibility to grab potentially a Chris Olave, a Jahan Dotson, could be I apologize, is it Drake London or London Drake, the wide receiver out of USC? He's become a hot name. Could be Garrett Wilson if he slips down a little bit. It gives them the flexibility to take one of the top receivers that will be taken in this draft, right? Pair him up with Michael Thomas. All of a sudden, the New Orleans Saints start to have much, much better receiving threats on their team. The other pick, does it signal the end of the Jameis Winston era in New Orleans? And I'm not saying that they would draft Kenny Pickett or Desmond Ridder or Malik Willis, and that's their starter in 2022. But Jameis Winston only signed a deal with New Orleans for a couple of years. Taysom Hill has moved over to tight end. They bring in Andy Dalton to be the backup. He's a smart veteran quarterback who has had success in the NFL. He had taken the Bengals to the playoffs numerous times, winning a very difficult division numerous times. And honestly, for the most part, being around the Bengals as much as I am, I don't put some of the really bad playoff losses on Andy Dalton. You had that implosion against the Steelers. That was on Burfict and Pac-Man. And then, honestly, it was the coaching. Marvin Lewis was a very bad coach in the playoffs. But do you draft one of those guys at number 19 now to develop to be the future face of the franchise? Do you trust Desmond Ridder, who I love, to come in, get acclimated to the NFL game, and within 2 years, be the starter for the New Orleans Saints? Do you trust Kenny Pickett to come in and learn the NFL game and become the starter within 2 years? Malik Willis, same thing. I honestly, truly believe that is what they are going to do. Now, if it works out for them, great. If it ends up being a Jordan Love situation for them, well, that's great for them too, right? It's not great for the Bucs. It's not great for Bucs fans, but they're hedging their bets. In my opinion, that's what they're doing. They have a starter right now in Jameis Winston, and they can draft a guy that can develop and either become the starter, or if Jameis takes off, now you have either a really, really good backup or you have trade bait. Or this is the other thing that could be happening. And I know David's going to weigh in on tomorrow's episode. He has some thoughts on this trade. We have not spoken to each other about our thoughts on this. I don't know what he thinks they're doing. He won't know what I think they're doing until he listens to this episode. So, the New Orleans Saints, after having Jameis in the building for 2 years, he learned under Drew Brees for a year, learned under Sean Payton for 2 years, had an unfortunate injury, but he was playing really well at the time. Do the New Orleans Saints now believe that with Jameis Winston, they can use number 16, number 19, they can help him out, get him a weapon, get him a wide receiver to pair up with Michael Thomas, potentially Alvin Kamara. We still don't know his situation. And then maybe help out the defense. They already have one of the better defenses in the NFL. They've lost some pieces. Do they bolster up that defense a little bit more, give Jameis another weapon, and say, we can compete with the Buccaneers to win this division, and we can return to the playoffs and make a run? Obviously, these are the two schools of thought. I lean more towards they're going to draft and develop a quarterback. Malik Willis and Desmond Ridder, I like both of these guys. I'm biased. I will flat out admit I am biased. I like Desmond Ridder better because I really thoroughly enjoyed watching him play for the University of Cincinnati this past season. I think he played really, really well. I think he has some really impressive tools in his arsenal. Just needs some refinement. But I do believe that under the right coaching, under the right tutelage, under the right development, Desmond Ridder can be a very good starting quarterback in the NFL. Do I think he would get that in New Orleans? I do, but I'm not as confident as I would have been if Sean Payton was still there. So, interested to hear what David's thoughts on this is, because I think he would lean more towards they're going to try to win now with Jameis Winston, and they're going to load up with these 2 first-round picks to help the team around him. But I'm not 100% sure. I'll be interested to hear what he has to say about it. Something else that people have been talking about over the past couple of days is the potential of Tyrann Mathieu joining the Buccaneers. He has some connection there, obviously, personal and professional. He might be heading to the NFC South, but it may not be for the Buccaneers. But first, I need to ask all of you, have you tried Built Puffs? Because if you haven't, you need to. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar. They are a treat. They are covered in 100% real chocolate. They are a fan favorite. You can get the brownie batter, the churro, the coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie, all of them. Delicious. This is going to be your new favorite. And just like the OG Built Bars, all of the Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. low calorie, high protein. You can go to built.com, scroll down the macros chart. I apologize. You scroll down the macros chart and you're going to be blown away at some of these numbers that you are going to see. And I've told you all time and time again, most of these bars, 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, 17 grams of protein. They're all delicious with new flavors coming out all the time. If Built thinks that there is a flavor out there that might be good, they're going to figure it out. Once they figure it out, then they're going to go back and they're going to figure out how to keep it delicious, but make it healthy. Go to built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15. You're going to get 15% off your order. Again, promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Wrapping things up here on a Wednesday edition of the Locked On Bucs podcast. James Yarcho on Twitter at @JYarcho_Bucs. Follow my buddy David at DHarrison82. And shout out Evan Klosky on Twitter at eklosky WTSP. Hopefully he'll be back next week. If not, don't worry. I still got you. And look, someone that has been tied to the Bucs from various outlets, through various modes of speculation, through wishful thinking, and trying to speak it into existence has been Tyrann Mathieu. Now it looks as though he may be on his way to the NFC South, but not with the Buccaneers. And look, David and I have been pounding this Tyrann to Tampa table for years and years and years. There's no question the connection that he has to the Buccaneers organization. And that tie, of course, comes with Bruce Arians and Todd Bowles. I'm sure he and Tom Brady would be able to put their Super Bowl disagreement aside for the betterment of the team in a quest to go win a Lombardi trophy together. But as David and I talked about earlier this week, how does he fit? You know, he's not an exact replacement for Jordan Whitehead, right? He could complement the defense. He would play well in the defense. Todd Bowles would figure out how to use him efficiently. But you have Logan Ryan there, who's kind of similar in the fact that he can play all over the place. He can drop down into the box. He can split out and play nickel or corner. Tyrann Mathieu is kind of that player. He is a grinder. He is a phenomenal talent that can be placed all over the defense and do all kinds of different things. Well, that kind of player is going to be intriguing to a team like the New Orleans Saints, who Mathieu visited on Tuesday. We know that Tyrann Mathieu went to LSU. That's his hometown team. Probably a dream of his to be able to play for them. Serious competition there for Tyrann Mathieu down in New Orleans. I know a lot of Colts fans and Colts outlets are talking about the fit that he would have in their defense and how much they wanted him. But when he was asked about it a little while ago, shout out to Dilly Sanders over there at the Saints Wire, he had put out an article that had this quote up that Tyrann told the media when asked about the potential for playing for New Orleans, and this was back before the visit. Tyrann said, quote, "They have a great program with Mama Benson, Dennis Allen, and all of those people over there. It'd be great to represent my state, my city, and the team I grew up watching. Even a couple of my guys that I love to hang out with, they play for the Saints now. So, you know, it wouldn't be a bad situation," end quote. Sounds to me like if Tyrann Mathieu was going to handpick a team to go play for, it would be the New Orleans Saints. And what a crushing blow that would be to Buccaneers fans who were hoping to get Tyrann Mathieu, now have to face him twice a year. He had gone on to say in that article by Dilly Sanders that I had referenced, he had talked about Lattimore and Gardner Johnson and those guys. He's like, we might be the smallest secondary. I'm paraphrasing, by the way. This isn't a direct quote, but he said we might be the smallest secondary in the league, but we're also going to be the feistiest or the most fiery or something to that effect. So you take a look at a situation like that, it's going to be hard to compete with the Saints if they are legitimately interested in bringing Tyrann Mathieu into their building to play for their team. Again, you're looking for ways, and this goes back to the trade that we talked about in segment 2. The Buccaneers are the top dog in this division right now. They are the most threatening team. David has said it. I have echoed his sentiment. It's a 2, maybe a 3-team race in the NFC. The New Orleans Saints are not in that race right now. They're good. They have potential, but they're not in that race right now with the Buccaneers, the Rams, and maybe the Packers. You add Tyrann Mathieu to the back end of that defense. You use 16 and 19 to put more weapons around Jameis Winston. Saints are in that race. And it's going to be real difficult for another team to lure Tyrann Mathieu away from signing with the New Orleans Saints if the Saints truly want him and offer him a deal. Because we talk about hometown discounts all the time, and a lot of those are, would you take a discount to play for the team that you've already been playing for? It's not always the case. This really is Tyrann Mathieu's hometown team. This is the team he grew up rooting for, the team that he grew up watching. That's his home, literally his home. So the visit, I think, is pretty much the first step in what's going to end up being a sure thing of Tyrann Mathieu joining the New Orleans Saints. That makes that Saints defense even better, even tougher, even scarier. And it puts the Saints one step closer in that conversation of who is going to win the NFC South. With that, I am out of here. Thank you all for making Locked On Bucs your first listen every day. Now make your second listen the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. Ryan Tracy and former NFL cornerback Eric Crocker bring the NFL Draft to life every day with insight and analysis on college football prospects and NFL front offices. It is also free and available wherever you get your podcasts. David will be here tomorrow. He'll give his thoughts on the Saints trade. Plenty still to talk about as we inch closer and closer to the NFL draft. If you have questions or topics that you want us to discuss, make sure you give us a call at 813-444-5841 or send us an email to lockedonbuckspodcast@gmail.com. Check out everything I'm doing over at bucksnation.com. Make sure you're following along on Twitter at LockedOnBucks, at JYarcho_Bucks, at DHarrison82, and at Bucks_Nation. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding day. Stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands, be good to one another, fire those cannons. We thank you so much for joining us right here at Locked On Bucs.